I've been waiting to put together this one for a while, and here it finally is. This will be the end of the gender pay gap debate, or one can only hope. So let's dig in, ninjas. Before we get into the video, please subscribe to the channel, like this video if you like it, comment if you have anything to comment, or even if you don't, more comments mean better YouTube ranking. And better ranking means getting more exposure instead of our media being flooded with radically leftist propaganda. So yeah, comment away. Alright, back to it. Let me begin by stating the obvious. The pay gap is calculated by adding the total amount all men earn in all jobs in comparison to the total amount all women earn in all jobs. This does not go into each industry, each job type, each level on the hierarchy, or anything else. It is a blanket figure. So I'm going to look into these numbers and explain why there is a disparity in total earnings between men and women. I'm unsure how many videos have obtained actual data from the government, but here is one for you to enjoy. All data in this video is obtained from the Australian Bureau of Statistics and the Workplace Gender Equality Agency, which is also part of the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Both are government agencies with the sole purpose of providing unbiased data. In fact, the Workplace Gender Equality Agency's sole purpose is to provide stats about the pay gap. They're completely convinced about this pay gap, even though they have their own statistics to explain it, which we are about to go through. So let's get right into it. First off, before I get into the facts, how can any of these stats assume the genders of everyone they interview or have data for? Ha, just a laugh. But seriously, in this document, we have the gender workplace stats at a glance from February 2018. These are the most recent stats I could find, and they are from not that long ago, so they are still valid. First off, women comprise 46.9% of all employed persons, making men comprise 53.1%. So there we have a 6% difference. So of all people that work, there are 6% more men working. Straight away, that's 6% you can take off this imaginary gap the offended mob have invented. Then you look at the workforce participation rate. Women are 10.4% below men, yet another statistic proving why there might be a disparity in total earnings. Now focus your attention to the female workers. 68.6% of all part-time employees are women, and 36.8% of all full-time employees are women. Common sense dictates that part is smaller than full. So part-time workers get less money than full-time workers. Women only account for just over 1/3 of full-time workers, which would explain why, as a whole, the total amount earned by women is less. The pay gap is not some conspiracy to keep women in the dark ages. There are countless laws to stop people being paid less for the same job. Women are just more inclined to take time off for maternity leave, or to take care of kids, or many other circumstances that would lead them to work only part-time as opposed to full-time. And you know what? True men respect the heck out of women for that. Decades ago, when women only took care of the kids and men were the breadwinners, there was no hatred towards men. The couple was a team, both contributing to the family unit. True men respect women for their unbelievable efforts in having children, caring for them, and raising them if they spend more time doing so, which is a natural thing, as only women can have children, although it is 2020. I saw a post recently that read something along the lines of, feminists always frame the past as men were allowed to work while women were forced to stay home. But it's just as true to say women were allowed to stay home while men were forced to work. The average man had no say in this, and no woman would have married one unwilling to work. Just an interesting observation I came across, but make of it what you will. It's worrying to see that the Workplace Gender Equality Agency mentions troubling statistics about men, but does not seem to address them. 3% less men graduate from school, and the difference between the amount of men and women that achieve a bachelor's degree is 29%, yet we don't hear anything about this gap. In fact, women under 30 have been found in numerous studies to earn more than men. Understandably so, they are more educated, less likely to be in jail, less likely to have mental health issues, less likely to commit suicide, less likely to be on welfare, and on and on and on. It's a true shame that we don't hear anyone making a fuss about these serious issues. It's only once a family gets started that the stats start to reveal a gap, and also the fact that women are less willing to take those bigger risks than men would statistically take, or go for jobs out of their reach, or take on the responsibility of a managerial role, and many more situations. The WGEA says that women earn 15.3% less than men if you add up all the earnings, which we can automatically get rid of most of just from simple stats. Now we get into the juicy stats. Stats so juicy that the WGEA has deleted this report from its website or any trace of it existing on the internet. But your boy Red Herring over here took some initiative and downloaded the report before they could delete it. So let's get right into it. Now this is a 2016 report and the most recent one of this type, before they stopped doing this report because it showed the flaws in the pay gap theory and have been criticized for this since. Again, we see that the workforce has more men, around 6 to 7% more, and plenty more full-time workers as opposed to women who have more part-time roles. So the industries that are dominant in female workers: healthcare and social assistance, and education and training. The industries that are dominant in male workers: construction with 88.3% men, and mining with 86.3% men. Also the two industries with the highest wages, but also the highest risk. This would further explain the rationale behind the earnings gap. Men are doing jobs that are much more dangerous, which also pay more as well. High risk equals high reward. So yes, if you add up the total amount of money earned by men, it will be higher. Obviously, when almost 90% of people in mining and construction, the highest paid industries, are men, and almost 80% of people in healthcare, a predominantly lower paying industry, are women. This isn't some patriarchal conspiracy to purposely pay women less. Again, laws make that illegal. It's just that men and women choose different jobs. And sure, we can encourage women to go into other industries, but you can't force them with a gun to their heads. A quick Google search saw me find over 100 scholarships specific to women alone, and just in our little Australian country. Now you can whinge and call that discrimination to men, or even say that women can get in on their own merit, but here are your initiatives to encourage women to get into science, technology, engineering, and maths. The opportunities are there, and good on women for doing what they love. If STEM is what they love and defeating the stats of the standard 99% male engineering cohort. The point is, the opportunities are there. Some unis even have scholarships provided to women just for being women. I wonder what they'll do when a trans woman comes along, so a biological man pretending to be a woman. Under diversity, they have to let him apply, and if he doesn't get it, he will probably claim discrimination. This is an interesting world that we live in. Perhaps more can be done to encourage women to take on these opportunities as opposed to bringing men down. Some unis have even lowered the entry mark for STEM courses for women and kept it higher for men. Way to say to women, hey, you're not smart enough here, you only need 80 to get in instead of 90. This has the opposite effect and is demoralizing to women who can get in on their own merit. Now we move on to the total hours worked. So we've already explained about 167 reasons why there may be a discrepancy in the total amount of money earned between men and women. Well, here is another stat that shows the reason why this 15% earnings figure exists. As you can see in these two images, men work more hours in 18 out of the 19 industries tested. 18 out of 19. And these stats also are calculated properly. It's not just a sum of all the hours worked by men and all the hours worked by women. It's an average of hours worked by men and women, which is the total amount of hours divided by the amount of men and women in the industry. Because if you just added up the total amount of hours worked for each person, in mining for example, it would be about 1 million hours for men and a couple hundred hours for women, purely because the industry is dominated by male workers. I find it ironic how they use this proper statistical methodology for stats that assist women to lower the percentage figure, but when it comes to the pay gap, they just add it up and not average anything to just get a huge arbitrary figure. Anyway, there is only one industry that women work more hours, This is for full-time average weekly hours worked, which is a good indicator of why pay may differ. Men also work 9.8% more hours than women. Men work on average 42.6 hours versus 38.8 hours for women. Men work 3.8 hours more each week, or almost 200 hours more per year. Ladies and gents, that's almost 10% more hours that men do. Add this 10% figure to the 6% figure we discussed above, the 6% figure that shows how there are 6% more males in the workforce, and the magic 15% pay gap figure is now vanished. In fact, the figure is now 1% in favor of women. Statistic denied. And to top things off, of the 19 industries mentioned above, in 14 of those industries, men were predominantly more prevalent in being employees without paid leave entitlements. This can also be defined as contract or casual workers who earn 25% more money generally to factor the lack of benefits. There's another 25 reasons to explain why a gap between total earnings exists, as the 25% extra income puts their wage higher. Now let's involve some statistics about the discrimination that male workers face in certain industries. Now I'm just going to put a blanket statement out there before I explain the rationale behind it. This is the statement. Female nurses earn 704% more than male nurses earn. Let's say that again. Female nurses earn 704% more than male nurses earn. And that number increases to over 1,100% based on US figures. Now, let me explain. That blanket statement uses the exact same statistics that the feminists brag on about when they refer to the gender pay gap. So yes, it is true that female nurses earn 704% more, but that's because of valid reasons. Valid reasons such as the fact that 90% of the nursing workforce is female, so obviously they will earn more. The way the feminists use data is like this to describe the blanket gender pay gap, and this is actual data from the Nursing and Midwifery Board, which is a government organisation. Now see the stats here, add up the total amount that all men earn and the total amount that all women earn. We're assuming the average wage of a nurse/midwife is 70,000 AUD, based on multiple reports to suggest that that is a fair median figure. So let's go, 43,197 times that by 70,000. That's the total amount men earn. Then let's go 347,385 times that by 70,000. That's the total amount women earn. Calculate the percentage difference and wow, 704% difference. Fair call. So let's use these same statistics to preach for all the male nurses who deserve equal pay. This is obviously sarcastic and ironic. They do get equal pay. We are just mocking the same reporting stats that the left is pushing in relation to the gender pay gap. Hashtag equality for male nurses. If that went viral, that would be hilarious. Male nurses and midwives also worked 14% longer hours. See the stat. This figure shows lower figures of staff as it is from 2016 versus the 2018 stats I showed above. But they work 14% more hours and get 704% less income. Crazy. The feminists have invented another international day for something to proclaim that on day X, I can't actually remember the day, they would earn $0 more by working for the rest of the year, given the pay gap. I challenge this day and propose that we have an international day recognizing all those men who have sadly passed on the job. Men are 23 times more likely to die on the job, meaning if we took stats from one calendar year, the amount of women that die in an entire year at work is the equivalent to the amount of men that die in just 2 weeks. So I guess men should stop working for the rest of the year on January 14. Let's make January 14 the International Day of recognizing those who die at work, both men and women, because we believe in equality, not superiority. Another point that we have all heard before, but it has to be included in this video for completeness. If women were genuinely paid less for the same job, every business whose goal is to make money would hire only women. And my last point before I run out of breath, it's a simple question, but a valid one. To the people reporting these gender pay gap figures and to the people preaching them, can we really assume the gender of every person involved in this statistic that calculated the pay gap? No, we can't. Therefore, a gap does not exist. Male versus female does not exist. Gender doesn't exist. Ha, I'm kidding. That's just, yeah, not true. Just a laugh. But gender does exist. But male versus female does not. Let's stop promulgating a gender war and focus on growing together as humans. Not as men or as women, but as people. Anti-discrimination acts prevent any form of discrimination based on gender, including pay discrimination. So there you have it, ladies and gents, verified data that shows and explains why there is an earnings gap, and explains that women and men in the same job with the same experience do in fact get the same pay, in civilized societies at least. Not only does legislation prevent people from getting paid less, but there are unions that would take action if this wasn't the case. Again, this data was collated and provided by the government agency that invented the pay gap and proves that an inherent bias towards men does not exist. Happy debating, my little ninjas. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more videos. Peace out.